Oh my God, what are these people up to? But I felt for myself an immediate attraction to Becker, in part because I found his language just tremendously accessible, and then beyond that, his thoughts tremendously provocative and profound. Becker, very simply, as some of you know, just hypothesizes following Darwin that human beings share with all other forms of life a basic biological predisposition towards survival in the service of reproduction. And he just asks us to note that different forms of life have different ways of solving the problem of how to stay alive. So I have my stock examples that I think I broke out at the high school today. You got the giraffe with the long neck. Eagles have keen vision. Bees have that waggle dance, and they can orient themselves relative to the North Pole. And the question becomes, well, what is it about humans that make us so highly adapted to just about any place on the planet? And in this regard, Becker, again, following Darwin, just said, you know, what we've got going for us is that we're tremendously social creatures and we're highly intelligent creatures. So although none of us could make it by ourselves, we can together cooperate with each other and build tremendously useful institutions that facilitate our collective survival. Schools and hospitals, churches, and pizza parlors, and all the things that make life rather pleasant. We're also ridiculously intelligent creatures. And although intelligence is vastly overrated unless it's complemented with some other moral and ethical sensibilities that we may not have time to delve into today, let it suffice to say that for Becker, and here he's following Otto Rank, what makes us particularly striking is our amazing ability to imagine something that does not yet exist, and then the audacity to transform those dreams into reality. And his point, very simply, I love Rank's phrase. He says, only humans make the unreal real. Every other creature has to accept the world in the form in which they originally encounter it. Only human beings can conjure up an image of how they would prefer the world to be and then transform it in accordance with their desires. And I think it's fairly obvious that that proclivity has served us quite well. Well, what Becker does is to say, okay, hold those thoughts, but now let's go backwards in time from Darwin to Kierkegaard. And I know a lot of us have been through this territory before. Kierkegaard, another densely, almost impenetrable thinker, in the 1840s, thought about the idea that there's something interesting about people, and that is that we're so smart that we actually recognize that we're here. And I was kidding the high school students earlier today. I was just saying, all right, who's aware that you're here? I'm not going to risk embarrassing myself tonight because some of you may be tired, but I'm going to go out on a limb and presume that a neurologically intact individual has no trouble acknowledging not only that you're here, but that you know that you're here. And what Kierkegaard noted was that this is tremendously unusual and, in fact, historically unprecedented. A rosebush is here but doesn't know it. Asparagus is here but doesn't know it. An armadillo's here but doesn't know it. Kierkegaard said only human beings possess the cognitive sophistication to render themselves an object of their own subjective inquiry. I really like that phrase. It took me a long time to master it, so I'm going to say it again. I just like it. It sounds Kierkegaardian. We are so smart that we could render ourselves an object of our own subjective inquiry. Well, okay, well, so what? Well, what Kierkegaard said was, hey, here's, once you know that you're here, that's not only a cognitive feat, it has emotional ramifications. More specifically, what Kierkegaard insisted was that self-conscious creatures necessarily, from time to time, experience two uniquely human emotions that he referred to as awe and dread, respectively. And I always say this when I get to come talk in Seattle. I wish we had more time to talk about how awesome life is. But we don't. So let's do 30 seconds, and then things are going to get dreadful for quite some time. But we need the awesome side of things, lest we convey a very one-sided and unfortunate account of the basic essence of the human animal. It is sublimely awesome to be alive and to know it. And once again, at the risk of annoying you, how many of you have just had one of those magic moments when you didn't win a Nobel Prize, you didn't get $1 million, you just woke up one day and were just spontaneously exuberant at the prospect of being here? Who's ever had one of those magic moments? Yeah. See, this gives me hope, because I grew up in New Jersey, where don't have them that often. We're too busy watching television to see who could drink the most yak urine on Fear Factor, or over at Walmart trying to save a dime on a lemon and a chainsaw. But on the West Coast, things are a little bit more uplifting. I think all of us know in our finer moments how splendid it is to merely exist. Don't forget that. It is awesome to be alive, but it's dreadful to be alive, according to Kierkegaard. Lest you be a child or an idiot, to borrow a phrase from Faulkner, to be alive also entails the associated existential burden that arises when you coincidentally become aware that you will someday die. And not only will you die someday, but those of you that are savvy enough to recognize that you're here right now also know that you can die at any time for reasons that could never be anticipated or controlled. And then on top of that, Becker's not subtle, so he's piling it on. You know you're going to die. You could die in 5 minutes when one of these lights falls on top of your head, and you're an animal, a breathing piece of defecating meat, no more significant or enduring than a lizard or a potato. Cold cut with an attitude, spam with a plan, sans the can. I had a few more, but I can't remember them. But the point, very simply for Becker, is that all of these facts, you will die someday, you may die tomorrow, and you're a breathing piece of defecating meat, conspire to render us potentially prone to overwhelming anxiety. In fact, he goes so far as to propose that none of us would be able to sit here calmly if that's all that we were ever explicitly aware of. And I was joking with the high school kids this afternoon, because they were laughing. I wasn't trying to be funny, but they thought, oh, lizard and potato, that's funny, this is a funny guy. And I was like, wait a minute, no, you shouldn't, you should not be laughing. In fact, you should be a pulsating pile of twitching biological protoplasm cowering under your chair, groping for a volume the size of a sport utility vehicle. There's no reason why you should be here calmly or even entertained. And Becker's point, very simply, is that human beings cleverly resolved, although not entirely, the problems engendered by the uniquely human awareness of death through the construction and maintenance of what anthropologists today would call culture. According to Becker, culture consists of humanly constructed beliefs about the nature of reality that we share with people and groups, the primary function of which is to reduce the anxiety engendered by the awareness of death by giving each of us a sense that we are persons of value in a world of meaning. So for Becker, meaning and value are tremendously important psychological constructs. He just says, look, as an anthropologist, I assure you that all cultures offer an account of the origin of the universe, and all cultures offer a prescription for how it is that you should behave while you're here. And all cultures offer some hope of immortality, either literally or symbolically, to people who adhere to the social dictates of their cultural milieu. We all need to believe that we live in a world of meaning, necessary but not sufficient, he claims, for psychological equanimity, because in addition to that, what Becker insists is that we also need to believe that we're valuable participants in the world of meaning to which we subscribe. Again, rhetorical question. Who's ever wished that you did something really cool or important when you were a kid or otherwise? For Becker, this is not narcissistic